Yeah. 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 Welcome, everybody. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Welcome back to a brand new year of 2023. I can't believe 2022 is gone. 2023 is here, and we are here for season 4 of Q SuperShares. My name is Joe Marquez, Director of Academic Innovation for Q, and today we have a very special episode. You see, back at the end of November 29th, a brand new artificial intelligence tool called ChatGPT dropped. And this tool, when it first came out, I was like, what is this supposed to be? What is it supposed to mean? And a lot of teachers got to play around with it. Not just teachers. It's open to everybody. This isn't an education tool per se, but it's a game changer when it comes to conversational artificial intelligence. And it can be used greatly in the classroom, but it can also be abused in the classroom. So I want to share this with you because the more you know about it, the more you can look out for it, the more you can talk about it in your classroom, and the more you can empower your students to use it for good within your classroom. So I really want to dive in with this with you. But I also want you to know that we're going to be talking about this more in depth at Spring Q. And if you don't know, Spring Q is Q's largest event that we have in Palm Springs, California in March. This year it's happening March 16th to 18th, and we still are accepting registrations. And if you go to springq.org, you can definitely register today. And we are planning on having a panel to talk about artificial intelligence and how that looks in the classroom. So I want to share this with you. And if you want to play around with this as well, let me give you the link to where you can play around. It is open. It is in beta right now. So you can play around with it for free. Go to qlearns.org/chatbotgpt. You can play around with this, but we're going to play around with this together. Now, whether you're watching on Facebook or on Twitter or on YouTube, you can drop in comments to ask questions while we're doing this. We are doing this live today because I want you to ask me to have this chatbot write a story with different characters you know. All right, so I'm going to show you a couple things. So here is the website. Let me go ahead and bring it up right here. So it's created by a group called OpenAI. You may know them from the artificial intelligence image generators known as DALL-E, DALL-E, creates images based on text prompts. And this is based upon something similar. But you see, what this tool does is this group collected the largest collection of texts, human written texts, and it has created this database. It has trained this artificial intelligence network to answer your question in a very true conversational tone, right? Because at first you would think if a computer is writing this, it's going to be like if you were translating one language to a next, and it would kind of be in broken English. But that's not the case. It actually reads very well, right? So once you get to this page, you would click on Try Chatbot Chat GPT. And once you get to it, you're going to come to this screen. Now, I asked ChatGPT, what are you? How do you work, right? And it says it uses a deep neural network trained on the largest data set of human-generated text to generate responses and prompts. Basically, it's diving into this vast database, looking at your individual words, determining what you are trying to ask, diving into the text to find the answers, and returning it with a sequence of words that they deem to be the answer. I want to show you how easy this is to use. Now, we're going to talk about how to use it for good first. What if you have a student who is having a difficult time solving an algebra equation, right? And you're walking around the room and you're helping all these other students wouldn't it be great if you had this extra helper in your classroom to help a student know how to solve a particular problem? So you would be able to type something like this. Tell me in simple steps how to solve the equation 4x plus x equals 12. How would you solve that? But I am asking this chat GPT to tell me in simplistic terms how to solve this equation. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit next, and here it comes, right? To solve the equation 4x plus x equals 12, you can follow these steps, combine like terms off to the side, and the variables, and in this case is 4x. It's solving it for you. It's giving you the answer all the way through right now. And they're not jumping into quote unquote Google, finding what somebody else has written and bringing it to you. They are creating an original text written just now in the moment to give you this answer. Now, what's the implications of this? Well, one, you now have a very personal tutor, right? Because I can then come in and say, I don't quite understand. I'm sorry if my previous explanation was confusing. Here's another way to approach the problem. It's giving you now another way to solve it. You can do follow-up questions to the question. It's very good. Now, there is a caveat here, okay? Because it does state that there are some limitations that you need to be aware of, right? So here's one. There may occasionally generate incorrect information. It's using all of this vast information that's out there, but occasionally they're going to get it wrong, right? So don't take it as absolute. Make sure our students know that. The answers may occasionally produce harmful instructions or biased content, right? It's working on that. And that's what this beta is all about. If you actually ask it a question and it does produce biased content, you can then provide your feedback. This answer produced biased content, and they will fix it, right? By using this crowdsourced beta test, they're helping to make this even stronger, right? May occasionally produce harmful instructions, right? It reminds me of that episode of The Office where Michael is using the GPS and it says, go straight, and straight is into a river. And Dwight's like, no, it means go straight around. He's like, no, it goes. And they went right into a river, produced harmful instructions. That's what it sounds like to me when I hear that. And there's limited knowledge of this. They've gathered all the text, human created text they could from prior to 2021. So you can't ask them about anything in 2022, right? Definitely you can't ask it to predict the future, okay? So those are a couple of things you have to be made aware of. Now, what about in class though, right? What can students do in class? Well, good or bad? Is that the question? Good or bad? Well, let's say that you wanted the students, let's say you're a U.S. history teacher, and you've learned about the early creation of the United States, and you wanted the students to maybe create a fictional account of if George Washington met Abraham Lincoln, right? We know that's impossible. They were born hundreds of years apart, 100 years apart. But what if they met and they were discussing how the United States is today? And you want the students to really dig into their history and think about it and create this fictional with factual information. And you say, go off and write it. Well, the students can then come in and they can type something like this right into this chat. Write me a story of Abraham Lincoln and George Washington having a discussion on how they see the United States of America today. And all they do is hit start. And it says right here, Abraham Lincoln and George Washington sat across from each other in a small, dimly lit room. And as they conversed, the two presidents, they couldn't help but reflect on the incredible journey that the United States of America has had since its founding. Now, you may be asking me, well, wait a minute, Joe, if I'm asking the students to do this thought game, this thought process, this thought experiment, if these two amazing historical figures met and discussed how United States is doing today, well, if they just put that in the chatbot, and everybody did it, wouldn't it just come out with the exact same thing 30 times? No, that's the crazy thing about this. It doesn't reproduce the text of the prompts. It makes them again. Now, they may be similar, but they're not the same. So this goes to tell you that since it's not their work, but it's original work, your plagiarism detectors, your turnitin.coms, your originality reports from Google, they won't work. They won't. Because this is a brand new text to the world written by artificial intelligence based upon your prompts that you put in. Isn't that nuts? That's absolutely nuts. Well, now, imagine you're a history teacher again, and you ask this question. In an easy to understand way, tell me how the American Civil War impacted the economic growth of the South, right? It writes it for you in an easy to understand way. Here's the cool thing. It saves all these things. So let's say the student turned this in to you and you said, I want you to write a little bit more. Continue that thought process, write a little bit more. All I have to do is write continue the report. It continues the report. It writes more from the prompt that you originally asked. It adds to it with more information. Come on. It's crazy. Right? But here's the thing. It's crazy good and crazy not so good, right? Because, we teach our students digital citizenship, how to act online, how to act with each other. We try to remind them, hey, you know what? We want you to create this work on your own. But I tell you, what if a student completely, this never happens to you, right? What if your students completely forget about this report that is due tomorrow? And they have the opportunity to either spend the next 8 hours researching and writing this report or continuing to play their Fortnite or Rocket League, right? Or Smash Brothers. What are they going to choose to do? They're going to go for the easiest path, which is this. So what can we do? Right, Ashley, yes, and I love Ashley's comments here in the chat. Ashley, yes. Again, I'm trying to show you the benefits, right? The benefits that this can have for society, for us to help us to create walkthroughs for us. I mean, do you remember? I don't know if it was Good Housekeeping or Consumer Reports, but they would always have these manuals on how to do electricity in your own house. And you would have to buy this manual that would show you how to do things. Now you can ask for step-by-steps. Now it doesn't have the images, of course, but it can give you the step-by-steps on how to do things. It can help you create those lesson plans, right? But these are things that need to be talked about and tackled because, again, if you have 180 students in your role, right? If you're a secondary teacher, you're teaching, history, English, social studies, science, math. If you have 180 students across 6 periods and you have to grade reports, sometimes we rely on those originality reports from Google. Sometimes we rely on that turnitin.com. Sometimes we rely on these things. This won't be caught by those because they are original. There's nothing to be flagged against. So we do have to talk to our students about, character and being able to turn things in that you created, not just typed and had something else create. But it's a powerful tool, a very powerful tool. There's so many great, amazing things that can be done here with this. I want to show you this example. And this is one of the main examples they have on their opening page here. And here's a sample, right? So this is a user who says, you know what? I'm writing this code, and this code is not working like I expect. How do I fix it? And they just copied and pasted the code. And the chat GPT says, you know, it's difficult to say what kind of code, what you're trying to do. I need more context. Can you provide me with more information? Is this the entire code or just part of it? It's just part of it. The error never surfaces. I think there's something wrong with the channel. Well, okay, we narrowed it down. Maybe it's this, right? It looks like that this result work, that channel never closes. And if that channel hangs, it's going to create a error. So the best thing that we can do is if we take this and we actually have this channel closing. And so I'm going to write it for you. This is what you want to put here instead of that other one. Hopefully that solves your problem. They're walking you through how to fix your error code. It's very beneficial, right? So there's a lot of pros that I see when looking at this tool. But, you know, students are always going to find ways to push the boundaries, right? Students are always going to find ways to see if they can maybe slip one over on you, right? They're very, ingenious when they want to be, right? And this could make for that. But I also love to do fun things with this as well. My daughters and I were playing with this over break, and I would say, hey girls, we played kind of like a Mad Libs. I said, girls, give me two characters and one thing that they would, that's not part of their like history or something. And my daughter was like, well, what about Yoda? What if Yoda discovered Kermit the Frog was his son? Let's check. And I said, tell me a story of Yoda finding out Kermit the Frog was his son. Boom, hit enter. Oh, I'm sorry, but I am not programmed to create fictional stories or to make connections between real world individuals and fictional characters. That's funny because it wrote me one the other day. So they must have, I must have broke it. They must have fixed that and said, Disney might get a little bit upset if we created a story about Kermit the Frog and Yoda discovering those things. But we had a great time playing with these things this break. I guess too many people had a great time playing with that. We also did one on what if Batman meets the Flash at a public swimming pool and become best friends, and it wrote that for them. So I also tried to ask what's the odds of San Francisco 49ers make it to the Super Bowl, but it says sorry, we're not allowed to make predictions. We only have information up till 2021. And then another thing I did, like I watched that Netflix show, 1899, and they mentioned that it was kind of based upon Plato's cave allegory. I really never read that. I've never heard that. So I asked it, what is Plato's cave allegory? Explain it to me. And it explained to me in simplistic terms what Plato's cave allegory is. So this is very beneficial. And some people may be, well, can't we just Google that? Yeah, but this is generating an answer specifically based upon what you're asking for. And you can ask it to go into more details if it doesn't go into enough details to begin with. If you're on a web page and it doesn't go into enough details, you have to find another web page. This, I just ask it to continue that conversation. There's so many great things that we can look at this. But what I don't want this to be, and I'm gonna come in for a close-up right now. What I don't want this to become, and I can see this becoming this, I don't want this to become another nail in the coffin of utilizing tech in the classroom. I don't want this to become another reason a teacher says, that's why I'm going to have my students do all handwritten work. That's why I don't use computers in the class. That's why. I don't want it to become another one of those things. I even was forwarded a news article that New York City public schools have banned ChatGPT in all of their schools. Now, I can see how they're instantly reacting in that fashion. It doesn't mean it's banned at home, right? It's like putting a Band-Aid on a dam at that point. You're just preventing it to happen one place to happen at another. It's one of those things that we have always said as tech integrators in our field. We've always said, if we turn a blind eye to the technology, the students are going to find a way to use it without us. Don't you want us to be the ones to guide them on how to use it properly? And I always explain to my parents, not my parents, but my students' parents, I go, would you ever let your son or daughter get behind the wheel of a car without having a driver instructor first, without having training first? No, you wouldn't. It could be dangerous. So why would you give your student a device without being trained how to use it properly, effectively, safely, and with character, right? That's what we're here for. And again, this is not made specifically for schools. It's not made specifically for K-12. They haven't signed privacy pledges, right? Like a lot of the other made for K-12 school apps that are out there. They haven't. They haven't signed. They don't meet the requirements of COPA and FERPA. All of those things, right? That's a reason you would maybe not have them use this in the class, right? A lot of those are very valid arguments. But it's not made for the classroom. It's made for, I guess, progress. It's made for investigation. It's made for seeing how far we can go in artificial intelligence. There's always a first step somewhere. And this blew my mind when it really didn't have a limitation to what I wanted it to do. But we need to discuss it. We need to know about it. We need to know it exists. We need to know what it's capable of and what it can do, what our students can use it for, how it can be beneficial, but how it can be harmful. We need to have these discussions. And that's why at Spring Q, we are going to have these discussions. Because I tell you, when the floodgate of these things open, they just keep rolling. Next week, we're going to talk about DALL-E, the image graphic generator. From text, you ask it to make something that makes a brand new image that didn't exist before, based upon diffusion. We'll talk a little bit more about that next time. But it was fun to play with. But you have to know about it. Your teachers have to know about it. You have to know what's out there. And I see some great chats here from I showed Ashley, and then I see Dave here, right? He said he showed it to his advanced media kids for their YouTube descriptions with keywords. I mean, that's fantastic use of these kinds of things. Right. And then, of course, again, Kelly is absolutely right here when she says that it says you should be 18 to be part of this sign up. Right. And right now, again, it is in the beta version. It is free for research purposes only, for research preview. So I do anticipate that this tool, once it becomes more powerful, will be up for tool. But it's pretty exciting to see something like this come out, just drop, and we get to play around with it. I can't wait to see what else is down the road. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate you all for showing up for our first episode of season 4 of SuperShares. If there is a topic you would love for us to cover, please let us know. You can email myself at jmarquez@q.org and say, hey, I'd love to see this topic talked about or this or that. If you would like to be a guest on SuperShare, If you'd like to come on and maybe you have something you're using in your classroom. Oh, there's my my dog Murph right there. Hey Murph, everybody. If you would like to come on and you have something you're doing in the classroom, you have something that you are sharing, you're doing something after that you go and do something, please join our SuperShares by filling out the form right here. If you go to qlearns.org/qmedia, this is all the different media channels that we do at Q. All you would do is SuperShares and say you want to be a guest and just let us know what you would like to share. And you can either come on live with me on a Wednesday at 4 o'clock, which is when we air, or we can do a pre-record and we can air it on a Wednesday at 4 o'clock so that we can meet the needs of your schedule. But we'd love to have you. Most of all, we would love to see you at Spring Q. So again, I know a shameless shout out, shameless, but Spring Q registration is now currently open. We'd love to see you there. And all you have to do is go to springq.org and sign up today. I will have to say, and I have to apologize for this, the hotel rooms are going fast. And we created blocks for as many as we could. But man, people want to get to Palm Springs and just commiserate with one another. And it's exciting. We can't wait to see you there. So until then, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for everything you have done, are doing, and will do in the future for our students. And thank you so much for choosing the most important profession in the history of the world, and that is being a teacher. Have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful 2023.